I want to talk to you guys about Rusich. Rusich, I usually talk about as an example of far-right ideology within the Russian armed forces, specifically neo-Nazi ideology within the Russian armed forces, because Rusich is a Russian neo-Nazi unit. Its leader is an avowed neo-Nazi. You can find multiple statements online of him saying, oh no, you mean nationalists. No. I am one of Hitler's boys, you know, I'm a Nazi. That's the thing he says openly. They are a neo-Nazi unit that has openly bragged about war crimes before and have openly said that this is like a war for the race, etc. And they're fighting for the Russians. And so if the Russians have been supplying them with gear and helping them fight and letting them fight in Ukraine since 2014, how can you believe that they're fighting a war of denazification? That's usually how Rusich gets talked about. But in talking about them and providing examples of Rusich's behavior and trying to counter the idea that Russia is actually fighting a war of not denazification at all, as they're going into Ukraine and changing the local names into their own language and engaging in cultural erasure, engaging in conquests, as they're doing that while trying to paint anti-fascist colors over their movement, they're employing guys like this. And you know, there's a lot of instances of Rusich's brutality I could talk about. I could show you examples of the leader and their top fighters, including the one that was detained in Finland, openly bragging about killing POWs. We could show you the guide that Rusich leadership made to explain to soldiers how they could execute POWs without getting caught, how they could torture POWs without getting caught, and how that guide encouraged people to do so because they didn't want the command to trade over POWs, because maybe those POWs will rejoin the armed forces. So and ask for total war. And their justification for this was, even if our own soldiers get capped, even if our own soldiers can't get traded, at the end of the day, it'll make everybody fight harder because nobody will want to get captured, nobody will surrender, and it'll be an example of total war. That's the justification. We need to have a mindset of total war. So these guys are hardcore fascists, hardcore neo-Nazis, war criminals. They advocate for war crimes. They make guides on how to do war crimes. But they're also crazy neo-Nazis. And I think in some instances, and all the brutality, we forget about how crazy it is to have people who are ideologically dedicated to these things in uniforms of an anti-fascist army also engaging in fascist rituals. And there was an example of a fascist ritual recently that they were advertising in public on Telegram trying to get resources for. And the resource they wanted was a Ukrainian POW, one that they would want to be Tatar, one that would be a minority, a non-white Ukrainian that they could engage in sacrifice with. Here is the Telegram post in its original language, and here it is translated, and I'm going to read it word for word. And this is Rusich's official channel. If you don't believe me, here it is. Here it is right here. It's the same post. That's their official channel. You can see their symbol. If any of you guys want to go check it out, you can go check it out. If you translate it to English, it's the same thing. We asked the Allied units to provide us with one captured Ukrainian, preferably not a full-fledged Slav, but a smoked Crimean Tatar or something similar, to perform a ritual sacrifice to the Slavic gods on the holiday of autumn equinox to encourage and strengthen the spirit of the new personnel of the unit. Mind you that these POWs could be useful in trading for Russian POWs, especially the conscripts, very young conscripts that were never signed contracts that would allow them to be sent into like combat zones, that are getting captured in Kursk. And instead, these guys want to engage in ritualistic sacrifice of somebody, specifically of minority origin, Crimean Tatar, a group that Russians have historically colonized and removed and ethnically cleansed from the Crimean Peninsula, for ritualistic sacrifice. Mind you, now this all sounds goofy, and if this was just like some random post on Twitter, you could kind of just maybe laugh it off, and maybe they even do just mean it as a joke just to spook people, and they're never actually going to do anything, and this is just to get attention. These guys have committed war crimes in the past. They've openly bragged about committing war crimes. They encourage people to commit war crimes, and they've provided instructions to commit war crimes. So this should be taken seriously for no other reason from the fact that we know these guys are willing, able, and have committed war crimes against Ukrainian prisoners of war, which they're asking to do in this instance. To kill somebody for no reason, no strategic reason. No reason when, I mean, maybe they might think in their head, because I've read some of their posts, and they try to justify it through the idea of this type of total war shall bring, you know, power down against the Ukrainians, and, you know, it will help them add pressure, but it's not going to help them take Kiev. It's not going to help them take back Sumy. So there's no real strategic or tactical benefit. They could also use these POWs to trade back for their own guys. This is ideological. And I think sometimes people undercut the ideological, the racist, the colonial worldview of people and motivating their war aims, motivating them to go fight, motivating them to go out and attack. That some people just assume, you know, we're all living on the same planet, we all value the same things. For some people, that isn't the case. And for them, they genuinely believe that the Ukrainians are below them, and they are in Russian uniform, freely able to operate, freely able to talk like this, freely able to post things like this, and nobody's going to get arrested. Their leadership isn't going to get arrested. But Igor Girkin, for criticizing disastrous command decisions by the Russian high command, he's going to get arrested, not because he's a maniac and he engaged in illegal activity in Ukraine and he did all, no, all that was fine. I mean, he was even the defense minister for the Donetsk People's Republic, quote unquote. It was only when he criticized his own terrible command that he got the boot. And it was the same thing with other Russian commanders as well. This type of behavior, this will be left unchecked. And by leaving it unchecked, that reinforces it in the minds of those who commit these acts, think that it's okay, that even if it's not directly approved by command will overlook it because it's the excesses of war, etc., etc. Now, again, this is a lot of talk, so maybe you guys need to see something to believe that these types of things are possible. There was some geoconfirmed. GeoConfirmed is really good at confirming and authenticating locations for where war crimes, where events, where battles and stuff like that occurs. Some of their people have done that for stuff I've reported on. I've seen them do it time and time again. I think they're very credible. They marked and geolocated the beheading of a Ukrainian soldier by the Russians' 155th Separate Guards Brigade of Naval Infantry, which beheaded the heads of multiple Ukrainian soldiers. And then of POWs, they took these guys, they cut off their heads, and then they stuck them on sticks and recorded a very high quality propaganda video. And when I say high quality, I can't really like show much, okay? But they have like zooming angles, like panning shots, like the cameramen who are shooting these heads and are shooting these soldiers as they record their message, they know what they're doing. They're obviously well paid, and so there were resources poured into it. Resources poured into them advertising in recruitment form to get people to come join, you know, go fight. Come help us. Stick more POW heads on spikes. And this is like openly uploaded by the 155th Naval Infantry Brigade's like media team to the public. No repercussions. So if this is the military culture that is allowed to operate and allowed to, you know, proliferate itself, then that is the military culture that's going to develop. And then it's not very, you know, looking at stuff like this, difficult to understand what happened in places like Bucha.